Hello everyone, this is Cameron Snow with Danomics.com. In this video, I'm going to be discussing how we use our Flows toolkit to generate and smooth a grid. So let's get started. So as you can see here, I have a petrophysical analysis open, and I finished up my interpretation. I think everything looks satisfactory. I've calibrated to core. And now what I want to do is I want to generate a set of maps. And I already have these maps in the CPI file, but as you know, when we have maps in the CPI file, these have to be recalculated every time there's a change in the CPI. And so, if you've already finished that clay volume calculation like I have here, and you want that map to be ready to display and always available, what we need to do is we need to create a static grid file. And we're going to be using Flows to do that. And the reason we're going to use Flows is it allows us to perform some additional operations after we have done the gridding. So we've got this map shown here. I'm just going to turn my cross sections off so we can see what it looks like. And we can see there are a few little bumps in this map, and we might want to clean those up as well as part of this. So let's get started with our flows. So I'm going to say File, and I'm going to create a new flow, and I am going to call this Grid and Smooth. Now you'll probably want to give this a name related to your project, but I'm just giving this an example name here, and I'm just going to put this in my example flows folder. And so we see this is a new blank flow, and so we are going to start building this up via our flow building blocks. And so we're going to start off, we need to have some log input, and whenever we have log input, we're going to do a calculation on that. So we're going to take our CPI log calc block, and then from that CPI log calc, we then want to, we're going to generate points from that. And so we'll need to select what points we want to use. Once we have the points, we're going to make a grid, and we're going to use points to grid to do that. And then we'll use a grid output block because we want to write out that average V-clay grid. And then I'm interested in seeing how smoothing will affect my map, so I'm going to add a grid smooth and then one more grid output block. Okay, so I know I added those quickly, but we're going to be going through these and the logic behind all of them. So let's start off with our log input. I'm going to choose my relevant database here, and I'm going to select to use all of the wells because I want this to run on all the wells in the database. I'm then going to follow my log input up with a CPI log calc block. Okay, and I am interested in mapping up my average V clay. So I've got my average VWCL. Okay, and I am going to output points, and I want 1 point per curve per zone. So I've got this average V clay calculated as a curve, and I want that to be generated for each zone. Then I need to tell this block where my CPI file is, or which CPI file to use. So I've chosen the relevant database there. I'm going to choose my tops file and my well headers. And in this case, we need to choose all of these since we're working on a per zone basis, and because we're going to be mapping it, this block needs to know where the wells are located. Once we've done that, we have point select, and we're going to select our values by zone, and we're going to select the Austin Chalk zone here. Then, now that we have points, we're going to grid those points, and the ones we're going to grid are our average V clay. We're then going to write out a grid, and so this is going to be average V clay. We'll then follow that up by doing some grid smoothing, and for the grid smoothing, this acts on the cell size. You'll have to use a little bit of experimentation to find the right level for your project. here. And then after our grid smoothing, I'm going to have an output called average vclay smoothed. Okay, and I'll review these blocks, but let's go ahead and get this operation started. So we click the run button here. Okay, while that's running, let's just review this. We started with a log input where we selected our database and we said we want all the wells. Then in our CPI log calc, we selected the curve that we're interested in. So, what that's going to correspond to the map that we're making. We wanted to output points, and we wanted to output those using the parameters defined here. Excuse me. Then we selected what zone we wanted to choose points from. We then converted those points into a grid. We wrote that grid out. We then smoothed the grid, and then we output the smoothed grid. And so this is finished. And now we have, you'll see we have this average vclay grid and this average vclay smoothed grid. So we can click on these, and this will give us a just kind of a quick preview. Hard to tell what's going on here. You can see there's a little bit of a difference maybe, but the best way to view this is to go to a new map here, and I'm going to call this just vclay. And I'm going to choose to add a property, and our CPI file here is, we basically select our grid, so we're going to choose average vclay, and then I'm going to add a second grid for comparison, select property, and then I'm going to select this average vclay smoothed. Okay, and this is down here in South Texas. Okay, so here's our original, and here's our smooth. And you can see there's a little bit of difference. This was already a pretty smooth map in here. But now you can see it has been smoothed, and so that is our workflow. So once again, let's just run through that process. So I started with my petrophysical analysis. I had already done my interpretation of vclay. I had already saw the map that I was thinking about generating here. I then went to my grid and smooth workflow. I started off with log input. Then I told the program what curves I wanted to generate, what CPI file, tops, and well database to use. I then, from that output, selected to map out the Austin Chalk zone. I turned those points into a grid file. I then output that. I then smoothed it, and then I output the smooth result. And then we came here and we did a comparison of these, here in the map window. All right, I hope that was useful to you. If you have any questions, you can always contact us at support@danomics.com. Thank you.